Now, the traditional grading system with its reliance on letter grades often sparks debate about its effectiveness in capturing a student's true abilities and learning progress. With emerging research advocating for more nuanced and holistic approaches, we find ourselves at a crossroads. How do we assess learning in a way that truly reflects student growth and understanding? In our next panel discussion on the topic, the letter grade dilemma, exploring alternatives to traditional grading systems. Our panelists will bring to the table innovative assessment strategies aimed at promoting a deeper, more comprehensive view of student achievement. Join me as I request our moderator, Jeffrey Klubak, adjunct professor, author, speaker, and coach at San Diego State University and Integrity Game, and welcome our other panelists joining our moderator. Welcome them.
All right. Thank you. Hope everybody's doing well, hanging on. We're almost done with the day one. It's been a wonderful conference so far. My name is Jeff Klubek, and when our panel got together, we decided that you probably can all read. And what we would like to do is have you read about us in the program if we say anything up here interesting rather than reading our bios to you or anything of that nature. So would you please put your hands together for our panelists? First of all, the innovator, Laura Hart. The the advocate, Brenda Rayborn. The disruptor, Vanessa Colon. And the pioneer, Dr. Matthew Andrews. All right. So when I was originally pegged for this panel, thought I had a lot to say about the letter grade dilemma. I teach at San Diego State University. I taught at the Community College District in San Diego for a number of years. And I thought I had a lot to say about the letter grade dilemma. I'm adjunct, not full time. I'm not immersed in all of the administration and all the politics of academia that many of you are. And so my heart goes out to you. And then I met my panelists, and I realized I'd rather be the moderator and save as much time as I can for our esteemed panelists. They have a lot more interesting and depthful things to say, especially given the populations that they serve. So if I do want to, well, I will say this. When I'd get into the public speaking classrooms that I teach, I would ask my students, how many of you want to fail? And none of them would raise their hand. I said, are you sure? Just come on up and give me $100 and I'll give you the fail and you save the 17 weeks times the 3 hours of class time. It'd be very efficient. Nothing. Okay. How many of you want a D? I charge 500 for D's because D's means degrees. D's are a passing grade, so that's more expensive. No takers. No takers. So I said, let me get this straight. That means that you all are going to be average or better. You all want to be average or better. And they said, yes, just like I see you nodding as well. I said, good. Well, you finish everything you started, do all your work, deliver all your speeches, turn in all your work, and I promise you, you will be average or better. In this day and age, if we just finish what we start, we're at least average. And by the time 17 weeks goes by, if you're in the rhythm of finishing what you start, there's no way that you could be below average or fail anyway. So that's all I have to say about the letter grade dilemma. I hope you've learned a little bit about me. Let me go ahead and turn to our esteemed panelists. My first question, Laura, as the innovator that you are, tell us about what you're doing with RoboFun. RoboFun. And what does it do in, of course, you're talking about robotics, but we want to know how you believe we need to change both the context and the way grading is done. Content and context. Please, thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank Education 2.0 for putting this together. And then I want you to meet my little robot friend, the Finch, which is going to travel around the room or just travel across the stage a little bit. I think the whole paradigm, and I think many of you would agree with me, doesn't support children and doesn't support learning. What I do at RoboFun is one of my interns came up with that name. We've been in existence for 26 years. We run programs that are joyful and creative using technologies in schools. So we do things with robotics, we do things with coding. You have to code that, but just on a screen. We teach stop motion animation, and we work with Minecraft through the creative mode of Minecraft, teaching electrical engineering and things like that, and computer science through Minecraft. Um, my company is in New York City. We have received 3 National Science Foundation grants. I'm crazy enough, I learned from my son that when I bring him places, he's like, me and my mom's company share a birth year. And I'm like, oh my God. So he's now 25, about to turn 26. The company just turned 26. So as a naive and person at 26 years ago, I started a company because I really believe children need to do things that are exciting to them and empowering. And through that, they learn a lot of important things to help them in their life. I think the, I'm now answering the grading question. I got a little off. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
I've saved us as much time as possible. Carry on.
okay. So I think grading just gets in the way. I think that I have a few examples. One is I love listening to podcasts. I was listening to Terry Gross about restaurants, and the restaurateur was explaining what happens when they know they're getting a surprise visit from the health department in New York City. And I'm like, because they want to get that A. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to do a session on grading. And I'm like, you grade a restaurant and you grade a kid. Now, what's wrong here? I mean, grading a restaurant, I do want to eat in the B's and A's in New York City, and I do look, but you can encapsulate the cleanliness of a restaurant in a grade. You really can't encapsulate a child in a grade. I would say the other side of it that I feel like is so insane is that we created the system without the kids. We're creating them. They don't usually have a choice of the class they're in. Um, there's not enough choice in our system. The other side of that is, do they get to grade us? No, not usually. And that would certainly be a helpful thing in many situations. But ultimately, I think if you can get rid of them altogether, and I remember I had a son. I was successful in the academic game. I went to public school. I also went to the Emma Willard School. There's a representative, which was phenomenal because I could do exactly what I wanted. I went to Skidmore, studied art, and then I learned a little bit about robots. I learned from somebody named Seymour Papert many years ago, if anyone used the language logo. I then ended up working with him for 20 years. Um, and then I had a kid who I had to pull out of school and homeschool. And I'd had all this success. And I'm like, but he's really smart. I know you love your kid, but I could tell he was really smart. And one night while he was still in school, before I had to pull him out, he's doing some homework. And I'm like, well, I think we're almost done. He goes, Mom, I don't care. I like this. I want to do this. And I was like, that's the whole problem, is when you are motivated, the grade means nothing. So if you are in a system, and that's, really Pollyanna, and we can't all be there, but if you're in a system where you have to have grades, create the system with your children. Don't just put it on them. Make it a system that you do together so that they have a role in it. And I do think that children can grade. You can have a sit down. How did I do in teaching you this? How do you feel like you did in learning this? What a different dynamic that is. So I think I would like to have my panelists talk.
Well,
If
that's wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, moving on to our advocate, Brenda. We know that you're doing tutoring, and this is one of the things that I love about my panelists. You get to work with younger students. By the time they get to the college level, they're already messed up, and you guys get a better opportunity. But tell me, how does the letter grade affect you as a tutor, and why do the students come to you, and how does it all come together for you?
Okay, well, I take on opportunities with students from middle school through college and even up to adults in 80 years. Okay, so that's anybody who has challenges in any topic because we all go to school to learn at any age. But in middle school, there are lots of challenges because they've missed opportunities for one reason or another in the lower grade levels. And in junior high, because there is a distinction between middle school and junior high. Again, there's a gap. There are individuals who are sick and just can't go to classes. There are individuals who have been homeschooled and all of a sudden they're thrown into school. Um, there are individuals who are trying to really, really excel. And it's not necessarily their parents pushing them, but they're pushing themselves. And so they have all of these academics. And it's amazing to see the subjects they're taking, but they're not happy with an A. They want 110. And so that's amazing. And but then we also have those students whose parents are pushing them. But most of the time when the parents are pushing them, they're getting lessons for their students because they want the tutor to do the work for them. But I'm not going to do that. So, as far as the letter grade goes, the students that are challenged, I'm an advocate for them because I had learning challenges myself that weren't identified until I was in my 50s. And there's no medication out there that's going to help me, trust me. And so I'm not medicated, and what's worse is would to be self-medicated, right? But mm, I can really associate with these students and what their challenges are. Let me tell you a quick story. Can I go on?
Please.
Okay, a quick story. This individual, really smart, from a culture that is known for really smart individuals. And immediately I thought, I'm going to have a challenge with this one because he was analytical and mathematically inclined, and I'm not. I'm just the opposite. But I went ahead and accepted him because he chose me. For some reason, our profiles are up there, and he chose me. So he comes on, and bam, right out of the gate, I see him, he sees me, but what I also see in the background is me on a big screen. Okay? So he has me blown up on the wall. And I also see people in his dorm room. Okay? So I'm like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. And he also has a headset on. So it's like a headset you'd see with the DJ. So I'm expecting him to bust out with some kind of rap stuff any second. So I'm thinking, this is one smart ooby dooby, you know? Why does he need tutoring? It turns out that he had some special problems and he doesn't necessarily always take his medication. And we know how challenging that can be sometimes. And sometimes they just run out of it, yada, yada, yada. But he came to me with a D, okay? The first semester with a D. And by the spring semester at the end, he had an A, and I still have that message. And he thanked me profusely. But what had happened between the D and the A was if he had me blown up on the wall and he had on his gear to DJ, I knew there was talent there that was not being recognized. So when he introduced to me, which is a prerequisite, they have to tell me what they're learning in class or supposed to be learning. I took the opportunity to incorporate his likes and dislikes into, how I was teaching him his vocabulary or reintroducing his homework. So basically, it was just rehashing what his instructors had already told him. And this wouldn't be just one subject, it would be different subjects. But that was really exhilarating for me. One of my success stories.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And there's probably more. We're going to move on to our disruptor. Vanessa, how are you?
Yeah, that was just a
It was
nice
the easy
introduction.
question. No, I wanted to give you the easy question. No, this you are the founder of KFS School in San Francisco, and we know that your students are individualized, right, when it
Yeah.
comes to their learning at your school. So can you explain a little bit more about what twice exceptional means? Let's hear about that.
So, is anyone familiar with that term? Raise your hand, please.
Oh, good.
So, this has been a term that's been going around a lot. And I started the school 8 years ago. So, just a little background about myself. I actually graduated high school with a 1.87, um, diagnosed at 26. Yes. So, I feel like my karma in life was to go back to school. So, why not start a school with a mental health background? So, here we are. And I was working with one of my companies. We provide support professionals in schools, which I call social coaches. And 3 of the kids just got kicked out. I'm like, where are they going to go? So this is how the school started. I have zero teaching background. So I've had to reteach, just how to teach these kids that, I I'm like, I don't hear sounds. There's my teacher right there. She does all the phonics because I won't hear anything. So the school's kind of started with the kids helping with the curriculum. And a lot of these kids that are twice exceptional are very high, in certain areas, but maybe lower in a different area, which is more the social emotional piece, correct? So I've developed a whole curriculum called the 3R method, which is redo, rewind, and repair around this population, along with parents. So San Bernardino just picked it up for parent workshops for tier 3 families, hoping that they could see a difference in the relationship. They'll see a difference in academic, achievement in the classroom. But where I come from is including the child in everything, right? So when you say, like, do you grade yourself? Yes, they grade me. It's a conversation. How did I do there? Did I overreact? Yes, you did. Like, how can we do this again? And we do with the academic testing when it comes. A lot of these kids are coming from different schools and different backgrounds, which they've already had a really bad experience. So what is broken down? They don't have trust. So when you're giving them you're trying to assess where they are, I'm like, say, forget everything. Let's build a relationship first. And that's where I'm coming from. Because when you come from the relationship based approach, that's where you're going to see the difference in the child academically and everything else. Also, does the child understand how they learn? So that's what I'm passionate about is like, okay, how do we teach the child? Okay, does this make sense? How do I know that you're going to come to me that this was really hard? How can I make it different? How do I teach a child to self regulate and also advocate for themselves? Was that the right choice to make? I'm always giving choices. I'm never telling a child what to do. It's in a structured way, of course, but that, yeah, it's like, are we going to do this paper or this one next? What do you feel is right? Or what else would you like to do differently? So I feel like the more you include a child, especially a child that has, is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Black or white thinking. Like the gray area is like, huh? What are we gonna do? Like for a kid, I was holding my laptop and we were in an argument. I'm like, can we just drop it? He just dropped my laptop. Like he just dropped it, and I'm all, I meant the subject. Like, I mean, that's the stuff. It's like language matters, right? And like how we ask the child to do things, and it's very different in how you talk to the child. So I feel like when you're having a strong relate between the teacher and the child, when you're looking at that, when you have that relationship and it comes to grading and academics, you can get so much information. And that's where I come from. That's my passion. So KFS school is in San Francisco. We have bike desks, movement desks. It's all flexible seating. I always, parents call, like, do we need to have a social skills group? I'm like, actually, this is 6 hours of social skills on top of it because we're doing the 3 R's every which way. And when the child learns to advocate for themselves, that's when you're going to see a difference in their self-esteem, feeling good about themselves. And that all correlates to academics too. So thank you.
All right. Well, for those, before we hear from our last panelist, the pioneer, if you are imagining questions that you might have for any of our panelists, the innovator, the advocate, the disruptor, and the pioneer, maybe we can get that mic hot and you guys could pretend that it's happy hour and start lining up and waiting your turn now. Okay. Having said that, thank you for the laughter. Moving on to Dr. Matthew, the pioneer. Almost 30 years ago, you were the founder and the forerunner of the Good Project, right? So first of all, we want to hear about the Good Project, and especially as it relates to good work and good citizen as standards above and beyond or in place of the letter grade dilemma.
And just to repeat what we've heard, as a teenager, I found school kind of unengaging. I was a fine student, but unengaging. I found when I got an A, myself and my friends wanted better. And then we were twice exceptional in many ways. And so I went looking for answers. And I went finding my favorite teachers, and I was lucky enough to come across 3 men that were at the Stanford Institute for the Advancement of Behavior Sciences. Howard Gardner, who's most known for multiple intelligences. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's maybe most known for flow, this state of optimal experience, how you kind of push your ability level to meet the challenge. And then Bill Damon, who's my advisor at Stanford, who is really known for self-understanding. We were doing work on purpose, and Jeff and I have connected a lot. We have lots of metrics on what's that overarching, what's the reason, the answer why you're doing everything in life, but also learning this lesson. Robotics is engaging, right? So these kids engage because they're building something. What happened with the good project
Yeah.
from the 1990s was nobody really knew what good work meant. So we surveyed college students and professors. Guess what? Professors are trying to pass along wisdom and morality and all these ideals. Almost every single college student is just going and they say, I want a better paying job. Right? So the good project and good work and good citizenship really challenges us. Look, if we're talking about good work, there's some kinds of grade. Good citizenship is almost lacking. It's something we're just not even evaluating. We'll open it up a little bit more, but Jeff, I want to give one more plug because he's going to be embarrassed. This man, our moderator, wrote The Integrity Game. And one of the examples that rings with me is think of a hot dog vendor. A 15-year-old can sell hot dogs at a baseball game. He's got all genius things like this. But think, there's a purpose. He has a strategy. He has goals. He modifies those things. These are all things that are often missed when we're grading a math test or even an essay. So I look at that and thank you, Jeff, for moderating that. He's passing it along to us to share the wisdom. But without that question, when we're talking about this grading dilemma, what's missing when we're just putting that A and B? That's kind of what I put back to the group.
Yeah, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking and unexpecting as I was for that transition, the integrity game is something that I will be speaking about a little bit tomorrow on the panel that I'm on. I'm not moderating that one. This amazing woman named Nadine is going to be our moderator, and I can't wait. And so if you want to make sure that you get to that panel in the morning, but just to pick up on what you said, the integrity game, why? How many of you believe you have integrity? Right? Yeah, yeah. So it's something that we want to associate with, but the A word, accountability, is something, right? So accountability is always going to feel like an attack when we're not ready to be 100% responsible for our own behavior. So how can we make accountability non-threatening? So the integrity game is a parable. It lays out a 10-point model, and it's just what Dr. Matthews said, is we want what all of you have said: get them engaged, show them the love, get them to believe in themselves, and then they'll run through a brick wall to teach themselves and learn with and from each other. But most students, they're only taking the course because I have to. Right? That's the other question I ask on day one. How many of you are taking this public speaking course, let's say? How many of you are taking oral comm public speaking because you want to be a public speaker? You want every dollar you earn the rest of your life to come from public speaking. You can't buy a car, can't buy a house, can't buy food, can't buy clothes unless you speak. Crickets. Okay. If I want a better response, I have to ask a better question. How many of you are taking this class because you have to? And all the hands go up. Okay, well, hang on a second. I'm the one that's standing in front of 30 adults that don't want to be here. How about a little love for the professor? What would you do if you were me? I know you're afraid of public speaking, but a little love for the professor, please? So to me, it's all about engagement. It's all about taking the time to get to know them and know what they want, helping them somehow see why. Why do you have to? Why? How on earth could public speaking be important? And if they can connect to what's in it for them to be there other than just the letter grade. It's funny when students come up to me, Jeff, I tell them to call me Jeff. Jeff, I didn't turn in my assignment. Can I still turn it in? Well, of course you can, but are you going to? Will I still get credit? Oh, there you go. Tap in your vein again for points like a heroin addict. You're only going to do it if you get the points? And that's what we're creating in this world. Let me get back to Laura. Laura, we want to change it, don't we? We don't want to just complain about it. We want to change it, don't we? All right. So I want to ask you about systematic change. How would you begin to change the system?
I would begin. I was talking with Vanessa about at the end of the day, she does a session with robotics with her kids every single day. I would observe the difference. I think the change is not with the kids, the change is with us, the adults. So there's two things. In these 26 years of running my company, I've received 3 National Science Foundation grants. The one I'm on now is to improve the teaching and learning of mathematics in first, second, and third grade using this little robot called the Finch, which I don't sell, but I love the robot. And if anyone wants to learn more about it or me, please come see me. But the change is with the teachers. And so to begin with, You have to notice how the students are acting differently when they're in the driver's seat. And then you have to find other opportunities for this. I think that really the students are ready for this. They're ready not to be dumbed down. They're ready to have more control. It comes down to making your teachers understand their role as sort of the coach, the guide on the side, these very, known phrases. I think the other part of this is really good curriculum and really good curriculum that students love. And that is not easy to find. That is something that my company does and sells for a fraction of the cost of turnkey solutions, which I think are often turkey solutions. So you have to work with your faculty to give them good materials and good tools and good support so they know how to manage the transition.
Mhm. Yeah, and Brenda, our advocate, our champion, we know that students come to you when their letter grade is not reflective of the work that they're doing in class. And so then they come to you. First of all, what's the difference in their grades? And are you doing anything systematically different than they're experiencing in their classrooms?
I would say that when they come to me, they obviously have a problem, right? So they're not performing in class the way that the system thinks they should be, and or the system is not grading them the way that they should be acknowledged. So the first thing that I do is not only a written assessment to see where they are, and this is not a formal assessment, and I guarantee that, I guarantee the student, and we do it together. And I guarantee to the student that the assessment is not a formal assessment. Nobody's going to see it other than the student and myself. And then I also take into account the student's culture, which I'm sure all of you do that. Um, the student or the client, because again, they're all ages, their hobbies, their likes, their dislikes, where they want to go in life. But that's not a big question because that usually freaks the younger ones out, right? But I try to address all of those issues because it's a big deal when it comes down to how I'm going to approach, for example, how I'm going to teach them Spanish. Why are they not enjoying Spanish? And I adore it, right? So if I adore it, that doesn't mean they're going to adore it. So I need to make it fun for them. So I throw in games and I throw in 2 minute or 3 minute videos because we know their attention span's not very long and sometimes those videos are only 30 seconds. But sometimes that's all they need, a little break. Because after about 15 minutes of me lecturing or us doing a worksheet together, we both need a break. And so any sort of activity, even if it's something we consider elementary, a board game for goodness sakes, let's just throw up the whiteboard and draw some sort of game really quick. They really like that. And it doesn't really matter what age they are. Flashcards, we remember flashcards. These are all in our wheelhouse, they're all in our toolbox. We just need to use them. And one thing that I noticed with Spanish, we can pull in all subject matters, okay? Because vocabulary is vocabulary, and there's a theme to every chapter. And so, no, you can't escape math by learning Spanish. In fact, you're going to have to relearn English to learn Spanish, or for that matter, any foreign language. And this is where my strong suit comes in because English was my major. And so I get fulfillment there too because I don't like to just teach straight English. Just throw a little spin on it and make it a little bit foreign. So just make it fun. I'm in a group of teachers, and one of them said, I can't get them to do anything. And these people are paying this woman to tutor them. And I'm thinking, you're the professional here. Why can't you get them to do anything? And so she laid out to me what she was doing. And I'm like, you need to quit being the boss. Stop telling them what to do. Have fun with them. Be their friend. Mentor them. Get off your high horse because, frankly, it's making your butt look big. And so she related to that, okay?
Well, I want to thank you, by the way. That's fun, a colorful image. It's not hard to unimagine that. Uh, I want to transition to our disruptor, and we're going to talk about testing for a second. And if you give me a second to set this up, when for years and years and years, I would put the midterm exam and the final exam in the packet and let it be a take home instead of taking 3 hours of class time to it's a waste of the time that I have to make a difference. I'm not entertaining them, I'm not engaging them, I'm not finding out about them, I'm not making fun of myself to disarm that. You guys understand? It's sitting there sweating bullets. Moreover, they haven't read any of the chapters anyway leading up to the exam, so then they want to like call their friends like, hey, do you need to study? I need to study. Let's go to like Denny's, someplace that's open 24 hours. We'll pull the all-nighter and study. And they don't study. They get jacked up on caffeine. They make the mistake and have the Grand Slam breakfast at 4 in the morning. And now they walk into class at 8 a.m. and there's the professor. By the way, these students like, hey, give me the exam right away. Give me the exam right away because I don't want to forget any of the 3 sentences that I read. And every second that goes by, they're hallucinating, they're sleep deprived, they're jittery from the coffee, their stomach is in knots from the Grand Slam breakfast. And in that environment, not just the boss and the high horse, but worse, in my opinion, the professor's like trying to catch them cheating. So you get the A version and you get the B version and you get this. How many of you have ever seen that where there's an A, a B, and a C, different versions? So basically, the instructors are treating the students like cheaters, right? And they say, don't start now, don't start until everybody has their exam, right? And then the students are waiting like, please let me start, I'm going to forget something. And right? And they haven't learned anything. And of course, even if they got it all right, and I asked them the same question 6 hours later, they wouldn't be able to, right? And then they pass out all the exams and they say, all right, you may begin. And then
I'd be the one cheating, actually.
I don't know.
I'm like looking to the
And
side.
they pace back and forth. And now if you're the best student, you're well rested, you had a good breakfast, you've been studying all along, following up, you got the flashcards, everything. Now you're taking the exam and you don't want to look up just to stretch because you don't want the professor to see you looking up because you don't want the professor to see that you're looking up to see if the professor's not looking so you can cheat. What are we doing? So, Vanessa, how often around testing do you see a child shut down completely? And then how do you handle it?
So again, when we talk about kids like neurodiverse or testing is can be very difficult for a lot of kids. And also if you hand them a piece of paper and how many kids like rip it up, I'm not going to do it. Or I don't know, my kids like, well, we don't have anyone throwing computers right now at this moment. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But again, it comes down to the relationship with the child. So when you have kids coming in and you don't know what their prior experiences have been, so then how do you meet the child where they are? So that is where you have to build that relationship. And if they're not ready for the test, they're not ready for the test yet. And I might just say, okay, let me know when you're ready to take it. It could be, again, we come down to choices. But when there is a shutdown and a child is it's giving them that time, giving them that space. But what we call the rewind is like, okay, we're going to do this again. I'm going to present it again. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. And I'm going to give you the language that you're going to tell me that I'm not ready for this. I think we spend a lot of times telling children, no, that's not what we're doing versus teaching the right language that you want. Is this making sense? Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. I got a thumbs up. So I think spending time teaching that, okay, instead of, the physical piece or going under a desk or running out of a room, and right before you see that's where the 3 R's come in. It's like we see the redo. That's when you're like, oh, what do I want to see differently from that child? We're going to do the rewind. I'm going to give you the language. I'm not going to say, can you say this? No, because I think to me that's like, the kid, if they would have known what to say, they would have said it, right? So instead, they're showing you their behaviors. And behaviors to me are not bad. It's just showing how they are feeling at that moment. So then how do we give the language? When we give the language in those situations, then we can work with the child on them understanding what's coming up for them instead of the physical piece of, whether they're hitting, any kids hit? You guys, everyone here has been hit, correct? Yeah, see? Instead of like being hit.
I think this panel is hard hitting.
Yeah. Instead of someone being hit or, the paper or you're being yelled at, I'm just going to say, let's rewind them. We can, I'm not ready for it now. Okay. That's it. And I'm going to walk away, and then we're going to go back, and then I'm going to prompt him and said, when I hand this to you, you're going to give me the language. I'm not ready for it now, or this is really hard for me. Again, when you have kids coming up as they're getting older, you don't know what skills they missed because they had a behavior in a classroom or they shut down. And if you don't know what skills, and we just keep going and going and going, we are creating more problems for the child with anxiety, them feeling stupid, them feeling very insecure about themselves and who they are. So, what are they going to do? It's easier to have a behavior in a classroom or to act out to do something versus saying, I need help and I don't know what to do right now. And so they keep going, and then you keep going to the principal's office, and the same thing keeps happening over and over again. So that's how, whenever there is a behavior. So at my school, so by the way, I'm like a no paperwork school. Like, I'm really big on that. I know people are like, oh, how do you do that? I'm like,
Can
well,
I go? Can I go to your school?
yeah, no, I'm like,
Do you
I
have
tell,
any open seats?
yeah, no, please. I'm like, if I spend time doing paperwork all the time, then I'm not doing what I need to do. I want to be with the kids. And that to me is really important. The other thing at my school is what happens that day stays on that day. So if there's like a massive behavior over, I don't know what, I'm not reporting it to the parents, because what's going to happen? The child's going to go home. The parent's going to sit there and say, well, did you do this to Johnny? Blah, 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 blah. To me, whatever happened at school is already repaired. It's done. You move on. And that's where I see a difference with the kids, that they're not coming back into school thinking about what did they just do next, right? So that is one of the things that is super important for me on the social emotional learning.
Yeah, I just have, we're going to wrap it up now. I've got one more question for the pioneer, Dr. Matthew. Tell me more, real quick, about good work and good citizen. Like, go deeper on not just what it is, but of course, how it is innovating the system, the change.
Yeah, right on. And the dilemma here, there's some sort of standardization. Many of us are school directors or run. Part of it is we want some sort of standardization, even with college admissions. And many of you here, we've been having this conversation already. So that's one side. The other side of, I've been a pioneer so far outside this box. Please help me, bring me back. But there are so many solutions that we had 30 years ago that sometimes I don't understand why we get caught in these issues. So when we bring it back, I'm going to repeat what I've heard some of you already say. So these notions, good work beyond grades. What does that mean to do good work that's excellent, ethical, contribute something? What's usually, and same thing, good citizenship, even beyond that. We have an impoverished sense of this. We're not very good citizens, any of us, because we're not really talking about it. So what do we really need here? Mentorship comes in. Mentorship becomes key. We're kind of lazy educated. Thank you for all teaching. I mean, we're doing wonderful roles, but it all falls on the teacher. No, we need coaches, mentors, many of you learning specialists. Many of us hold those kind of roles. But to repeat back what I heard, but I got so many spotlights on it, I can't see you. But from 2 presentations ago, he said we need mentors that talk us off the edge and tell us when we're wrong. So start thinking of that, and as we start building these things up, the other thing I'll say again, we've heard again and again, purpose. What's missing so often when it's just a grade? I'm not totally opposed to taking a test or getting a grade, but what happens again and again and again when that's all we do, we totally lose track of, did you make your money back? You spent 3 hours at the baseball stadium with a full tray full of hot dogs. Bottom line, there as a businessman and good work, did you make it back? The other part that I'm really pushing here is, how did you contribute? And that leads to this mentorship. We need everybody starting at an early age to have multiple mentors. And if you just want to look for a number, we should all have one mentor for every age of life we've been on this planet. Now, if that sounds a challenge, I'm going to put one more. You should all, many of you in the room older than me, we should actually have a mentee for every year of our life.
Yeah, fantastic. Big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you, thank you. Oh, do you have a question right here? A question? Do we have time for that? A question from the audience? All right, well, see us during happy hour. Let me say this, and the last word that I have on the panel, not to repeat what so many of you have said, but to add a new word to what we're really all saying. I think it was Dr. M. Scott Peck in his book, The Road Less Traveled, who said that love is the willingness to be vulnerable so that either we or our beloved may grow. And that is one thing that we all share here at the Education 2.0 conference, is that we are all in some way, shape, or form embracing headfirst into vulnerability for our beloved students. So thank you very much for the honor of hosting this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.